Today we are talking about what not to do. I said what not to do with your finances when you're purchasing a house.
So oftentimes as a realtor, I get questions in the middle of the process after we've gone through the pre-approval. We are approaching underwriting. We have the home under contract. I have a client who's so excited that they want to go and purchase furniture. And they ask me, can we purchase furniture?
And what I like to say, it's usually like a sofa or recliner or whatever,
Yes.
right? So what I like to say, unless you want to live on that sofa or in that recliner, the answer is no. Because seriously, what happens is a lot of times you go to apply for these things. And it says there's 0% for 15 months, okay? And so you apply. Well, now you have a credit inquiry. Well, what if your credit was borderline? What if your debt to income was borderline? But let's just say those things were fine, okay? Even then, they print you a receipt, but you don't get a bill for months.
Right.
We need a bill because now we've got to go add it to your credit. We need to know the estimated payment, which doesn't show up if you don't have a payment for 12 months. Like it can literally, even if your budget and your credit are fine, it can literally cause delays or, heaven forbid, even worse when you're trying to purchase that house.
And that's great, thank you. Another question that's asked, and it's not necessarily about what not to purchase, but they ask how many times is my credit going to be run through the process?
And that's a really great question too, because what we do, and everything's different, so and every lender can be different, okay? What most mortgage lenders are gonna do is they're gonna do a hard pull in the beginning, and it's always a snapshot. So a lot of times people will be like, well, that's not my credit card balance. That's not my automobile balance, but it's a snapshot in time that we're gonna carry through. And we might not necessarily pull the credit again unless something comes up, like, and it does happen, where people enter their wrong social, or their wrong address, or they're a second or a third or a junior, they didn't enter it. So there's things that can cause another credit pull. But aside from something unique like that happening, it's typically one credit pull that gets us through closing, but what we do is we turn on credit monitoring. So if you do go apply for that furniture and you don't tell us or your realtor, we're gonna get an alert, and then we're gonna have to navigate through seeing that through the end as far as whatever that might look like.
Okay, great. That's great information.
Thank you.
So another question that I get is I may have a client that is in the middle of making a career decision. So they will ask me, if I make a career change, a job change, how is that going to affect me in the home buying process?
Okay, and another really good question, because it's so case by case, but it can detriment the closing. It can, because most of the time, and there are always exceptions, okay, but most of the time when you are, let's say, a W-2 going to another W-2, well, part of what's required by the approval is a W-2 from the prior year and the most recent 4 paycheck stubs. If you're in the middle of purchasing a house and you are switching to another job, those 4 paycheck stubs, that's probably going to mess up the closing date. So it's really going to cause a delay. And sometimes it's even worse than that. Like sometimes it'll be like, oh, I've got this great opportunity and I'm going to be a manager now working on commission, but you haven't been on commission, and that requires a 2-year history. So those kind of things also can detriment a file. So I know it's really difficult, especially if that perfect job offer comes in while you're in the middle of buying a house, but maybe explain to them, if you want to take it, that you are interested and you want to take it, but you need to prolong that, 3 weeks after the house closing, because you also don't want to give notice to your current employer that you're making a switch, because we will verify that you are still there up until the day that you close, sometimes within the hour of the closing, to make sure you have not left that job.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. Awesome information.
Very
That's so
important
good.
not to make that change.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Another question.
Okay.
I'm full of them today.
Okay, we'll take them.
So what if I'm a buyer and I have, an extra $5,000 in the account, and I want to take that money and use it for a new cash purchase? How would that affect, or does it have any effect at all on my buying power?
Well, and that depends, again, because it depends on the situation, right? Like if I have a borrower that I need $30,000 to close and they have 100, not a big deal. But honestly, if they're like most borrowers where I need 30 and they have 31 or 29.9, then that can really detriment it. So what I try to say is during that home buying process, Be frozen. Yes, live your life. Yes, pay your bills. Yes, feed your family. Yes, get your gas. Yes, get to work. But don't do extra things. Don't charge things up. Don't pay things down. Don't go get that new debt like we talked about. Don't spend that extra money. Like, don't let that money leave your bank account, because sometimes I get a bank statement and it carries me through closing. And sometimes, depending upon all those dates and where everything cuts, I might need another updated account snapshot before closing. And if I've approved you on 30,000 and then we get just before closing, you now have 25, you don't have a closing because we don't have the money verified. So even that's another, just kind of like hang tight on that and try to do that after.
Awesome.
Yeah. And some other things that, people have asked about as well is, and this comes up so much, is it going to impact my credit to get a pre-approval in the first place? Mm-hmm. And that's because there's so many advertisements right now, like, don't pull your credit, it's going to mess up your credit. Well, they're talking about when you have someone look for an auto loan and then a personal loan and then a credit card and then a home. Like, have your credit pulled a lot of reasons in a short period of time for different reasons. A mortgage pull should not lower your credit. Here's where the confusion comes in with that. Most people are looking at their scores these days, mm-hmm. but they're not looking at the FICO or the FICO version that a mortgage lender uses. So if I'm looking at a Vantage score, like most people, among other things, because there's over 100 grading scales for credit scores.
And I know a lot of my clients, when I ask them about their score, I ask, what's your source of your score, and it's Credit Karma.
Yeah, and a Credit Karma is typically a Vantage score. So a Vantage score, I think, runs from like 300 to 900 or something. Mm-hmm. And typically Vantage scores report higher than actual FICOs that a mortgage lender uses. So what's happening out there is you're looking at a Vantage score or a different model, and you're looking at, I have a 729 credit score. And then I pull your credit and I say, and I pulled your credit and you have a 680, a 692, and a 701. Oh my gosh, my credit dropped. No, it didn't. We use a different grading scale. It's just like if you're in high school, okay, and this school has a 6 point and this school has a 10 point. Mm-hmm. Nobody cares about the other person's grading scale. Nobody cares because they're on their own grading scale. Well, that's how it is at mortgage lending as well. So if you have an A here because they're a 6 point and it's a B because it's a 10 point, try to take it to the other one and see if they care. They don't. It's totally different. And so that causes so much confusion with credit pulls for mortgage applications.
So regarding the credit scores, and that was great information, and the way you explained it was perfect. Do most lenders use the same model for scoring?
Most mortgage lenders typically use a FICO, and there's different versions. Recently, a lot of them are using like the FICO 9 or the FICO 10, but I think there's obviously even more versions than that. So, but just generally speaking, most mortgage lenders are using a FICO, never a Vantage.
And then as a lender, what would you say the most important thing, if you could narrow it down to one or two, once you've gotten your pre-approval, you found your home, and you are on the home stretch of getting your home, what would be the number one or two takeaways for buyers to not do with their finances?
So, of course, it's exciting when you're buying a house. Yes. And you want to talk to your friends and family about buying a house, okay? And everybody wants to help because we genuinely, we want to help people, right? But every single situation is different. And each program has different answers to different questions, even to the same questions. And mortgage lending last week was different than last month, was different than 2 months ago, is different 5 times a day. So if you have questions, call your lender. Don't listen to your friend or family member, even if they seem super smart, because they might not know the difference, and they're answering your question based on an FHA loan, which is what they know, and you're dealing with conventional or RD or VA or a grant. It's just so different. So the number one tip would be just, if you have questions, make sure they are directed at your lender, and don't trust what everyone is telling you out of good-heartedness, but they just really don't know. Right. And then I would say the second thing is, just make sure that you're communicating everything you can to your realtor and your lender, because we're advocates that are working together in a team to get you to that closing table. So if something comes up or you have a concern about something, we're your agents, we're your advocates, right? So we're the people to confide that information in so we can best advise you to stay on the right path.
Yes, exactly what she said.
Well, thank y'all so much for tuning in. I hope that this was valuable, and we look forward to bringing you many more, and she looks forward to bringing you many more as well. And we look forward to seeing you in the next video.
Talk soon. Hi, I'm Shonte Thompson. I am a licensed realtor in Mississippi and Louisiana. I can also refer you out to any state. So please call me if you have any real estate questions. Even if you just want to talk real estate and chat, I love to do that too. I can be reached at 662-801-7096. I'm here to help guide you to your no place like home.
I'm Stephanie Weeks, mortgage lender, and I can be reached at 985-300-LOAN, and I can help you in pretty much any state or U.S. territory because if it's not me, I have great connections.